All right, we will call the Plan Commission meeting to order. The first thing I would like to do is congratulate Tiffany on her passing her AICP exam, on her way to becoming a full-fledged planner. Congratulations, Tiffany. So I guess that means it's just more time you get to spend with us, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Everybody have a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes, I will move to approve.
I'll second that.
Got a motion second to approve the minutes. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on a recommendation of the Common Council for amendments to Municipal Code, Municipal Sign Code, Chapter 202-6 Sub C and 202-6 Sub E.
Thank you, Mayor. At its last meeting, or not last meeting, sorry, but previous meeting on May 19th, the Plan Commission held a preliminary discussion pertaining to possible text amendments to our municipal sign code, especially pertaining to public districts. Some of the potential changes that kind of were recommended and tossed around included conditional use permit applications being allowed for public district freestanding signs to exceed size limitations, conditional use permit applications being allowed for public district electronic message display signs exceeding size limitations, and conditional use permit requirements being listed out for public districts in general. There's also just kind of a general notation requiring neighborhood meetings being required prior to CUP application, which is kind of a general thing that we've noted down in general due to Ordinance 1-20 that was approved earlier this year. We just wanted to make sure that was kind of noted in the code as well. But tonight we have Ken from SEH here tonight to help kind of guide discussion a little bit more on potential sign size and lighting requirements that could be noted down in the code. So with that, I will let Ken take over.
Welcome, Ken.
Hello. Go ahead.
I think he is muted.
Ken, you're muted. I can see it on the screen.
Can you unmute our guest?
He just did.
Oh.
There we go.
Can't hear him. Lips are moving.
How about now?
Got it.
There we go.
Okay, I've called in, so had that on the reserve here. So, all right. So let's take a look at what you've got. Thanks for having me on tonight. I appreciate it. Let's take a look. I did review the current code that you've got right now regarding the signs, and my input in discussions with Mike Johnson were regarding the light levels of some of these signs. They can be really obtrusive if they get out of hand. One of the things you want to make sure is that you do control the light and do make them dim to certain levels after hours. One of our suggestions was to maybe take a field trip. I don't know if Mike has relayed that to you yet, but as far as light levels and the size of some of these things, get in your cars and drive around to specific locations. Mike and I have identified a couple out there that are on the Minnesota side of the river, but fairly close. We won't take too much, but really it's to define how bright these things should be. I have seen some of these that are so obtrusive that you could turn your headlights off and see the roadway by some of these reader signs, especially the ones that are just out there for the cities to use, or the I guess private property used for just large billboards, things like that. But really, it's for your public district. You want to just make sure that they're in a tolerable size. That's the key thing, and some of this is very obvious. The one thing I wanted to stress is, again, just keeping the light levels to a certain point. I did suggest some edits to that code. One was to remove the word foot candles. That's a different metric than you want to have on there. The other concern that I've got maybe is regarding the incandescent lamps as well, because you just say no more than 15 watts per lamp. Now, that's an older application. I don't know if we would see any new signs come out that would have incandescent lamps, but you really want to limit, again, the level of light that comes out of those. They can put 10,000, 15-watt lamps on there. So you want to minimize that as well, or at least to say that, discuss that it must meet the light levels prescribed above. Is there any questions that you have regarding the signage? What's on your mind with regards to this?
Yeah, Fred?
I have a question as far as the aiming of the sign or the placement. I guess the ones I've seen or what I feel would work best is having them perpendicular to the roadway and not facing out, into wherever. I mean, what is your feeling and what do you see in that area? I guess I don't want it to be telegraphing. I want it to see it when you drive by it, and for that purpose only. Or as that keeping it contained.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And it really depends on the proximity of the sign to the road. If it is a fair distance off the road, then you may need to angle it slightly, but be cognizant of at least the owners of that sign need to be aware of what that light is doing to properties adjacent to them. But if it is near the roadway and maybe it's a two-sided sign, you do have to have it, you should have it perpendicular to the curb line or the direction of travel. So it can be seen from both directions. So I agree with you there.
Thank you. Mary Claire?
Thank you. So I see on the agenda tonight where it says, possible recommendation to Common Council. I'd like to go look at those examples that you, I don't know where they are, but you've mentioned them at the last meeting and I was not able to be in attendance, but I'd love to go look at the samples that you have before we vote on anything or recommend it.
And I didn't draft the agenda, Mary Claire, but I'm looking at the recommendation that's coming from staff. And they're recommending that we review and provide comment on the draft ordinance and provide, it does say provide recommendation to the Common Council. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, if we're going to review and provide comment, maybe we need to take a little more time on that.
I mean, I'd just be curious to go and see the examples just to get a better understanding of, what it will potentially look like.
So, Ken, are you still there? Ken?
Yes.
One of the things that I was wondering if we could do is, and I've talked to Nick about this, the superintendent, is it possible to get a portable sign that might be the same size or near the same size that would be out at the school district, for example? Because that's the one right now, I think that's the most highly contentious. And so we would have it right here in our community and we'd be able to see what it looks like during the day and at night and have the neighbors being able to take a look at it and comment.
Yeah, I don't think there would be an issue with that.
Are they available? Do you know?
Contact some of the, we would want to contact some of the sign manufacturers. If they're anything like the outdoor lighting manufacturers that I deal with and the vendors, they have these samples available for review. Definitely when you're taking something like this and putting it into your community, you need to make sure it's the right light level and the size that works for you. So that's a good idea. We really need to figure out, do you have was there a manufacturer chosen already or at least presented?
No, because the owners of the locations where the signs are at and the owners of the current signs, I don't know that they've ever talked to one another about who they'd like to use. I know that we've had a couple come in here because the city's also looking at it. I guess I could turn to them. I was hoping you had guidance on that.
Yeah, I think it'd be, what I can do is I can talk with Mike and we can come up with some manufacturers, locals that would have some examples they could roll out. A lot of these either will be on a trailer or they can set it up on the back of a truck or something.
You know, why don't you talk to Mike, have that conversation. I can talk to Superintendent Olet, and I think they have selected a vendor. I don't know that for sure, but
Yeah.
you know, they've gone pretty far down the road. I think that they have somebody in mind.
I would assume that they have a size in mind already.
Yeah,
And if we can start there at least to like you say, they may have somebody in mind. They aren't probably coming at this blind. Let's see what they're proposing and then see if we can get a sign of that size out here. And then that manufacturer or that representative, local rep, can run through the light levels, the dimming levels, can set it up to some of the levels that are currently outlined in your code to just to see what those end up looking like.
okay.
That is something that I do frequently. I'll do mock-ups for cities for various lighting equipment, and just to get the public's input and your own input.
Okay.
So
Mary Claire, just to answer your question though, the examples that were kind of spoken between staff, a couple of them were in Vadnais Heights and one's in Maplewood. Do you want me to give you the addresses for those so you can kind of look at them yourself?
Well, I think it might be good to send it out to the whole commission to see who's able to, you know, make that little road trip to go look at those. I mean, those are the closest ones?
They're the ones that have like varying levels of light.
Okay.
They're all
All right.
billboard size though,
Got it.
so they don't quite give an accurate representation of what is being proposed at the school district, but
Do we have anything closer that's being proposed to the school district that would be more an apple to apples comparison?
not that I could find, or not that anybody else in staff could find, but we can keep looking.
Well, like I said, we're gonna see what we can do to try to get a portable out there to take a look at it. Maybe we could all hop on the Hudson trolley and look around.
Go on a beer run.
No? I'm smiling, Mary Claire, you can't see that probably. Yeah, Fred?
I concur with Mary Claire on that. In fact, I think I mentioned that last time. We wanted some examples of these signs to take a peekaboo at. So with that in mind, I'll make the motion to postpone this until we can talk to the school, get the examples together and go see this stuff before we take any action on it. So I move to
I'll second
postpone.
that.
Okay, I will note that the council is holding the public hearing for this on August 17th. Would it be all right for them to still hold the hearing, still receive public comment, but then refer it back to the plan commission to, you know, research size and lighting a bit more?
I think it'd be better to be able to look at the examples so we know exactly what, you know, could potentially be moving forward is my thought.
Fred?
I'd like to say it another way. It'd be nice to show people having that, if you're having that hearing, have some examples on a piece of paper or something to say, here are the choices that we're looking at, so they can, I mean, you're showing them what we're doing, and I think we should.
So I'm not sure what you're saying.
In other words, find out the size.
I get that, but I mean, so.
I don't know,
The 17th or?
well, I think we can do it by the 17th. I think we need to make this a priority. Get it done.
Well, and
We
we
don't
want,
have a plan commission meeting prior to August 17th, which is when the council has the hearing set.
We'll have their hearing then. They can still have it.
Hearing and refer it back to plan commission to, you know, discuss size and lighting more.
Well, why don't we just postpone the public hearing?
I mean, it's in the paper and it's already been noticed. I mean, I could we could postpone it and we'd have to renotice it in the paper.
How long a notice do we need for a public hearing, Emily?
It would be at least 3 weeks, 4 weeks out. Probably longer because council has to set it again.
You know, I understand that it's maybe, you know, burdensome, but before we have a public hearing, I think people need to come in here well-versed in what they're saying. You know, we don't want to have people talking about something that may not actually happen. We should have examples and let them see what it looks like if we can.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. It's kind of where I'm at. Anybody else? Are you all muted?
Should I amend?
Randy, Kurt, come on, Randy.
Should I amend my motion then to postpone the public hearing also, or ask to?
I want to hear what other people have to say here first.
Okay.
Any other
My
comment
thought-
on this, Kurt?
My thought on it is that it has been noticed, the process has started. There's no harm in hearing what the public input is at this point.
But they're going to be talking, I mean, if we can actually get a sign out there, a portable sign in front of the school, and I don't want to go down the road and just talk about the school, because obviously this ordinance is citywide and there are a lot of other property owners that want this as well. In fact, I mean, they substantially outnumber the school district. But at the same time, you know, the public hearing that's who we're going to be hearing from, I think, more than anybody, the folks over there that are close to the school. And it would be nice if they had an example that they could comment on instead of just coming in and talking and not being able to have a point of reference on, you know, how much light is out there, how it interferes or projects
Well, if we
light
could
onto
get
their
a-
property or in their house.
If
Pardon
we
me?
could get a portable prior to that, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
You leaving?
Like Daniel from C3 actually noted there is an
Thank you very much.
example of a digital signboard at their Ellsworth C3 church campus along Highway 10, just west of Ellsworth. They also said there's an auto repair shop next to them that also has one. So those might be some better alternatives or examples if you want to take a look at them. I don't know what the light dimensions, any of that. I don't know anything about the specifics for those signs, but
Well, I think it's important that people see them out in a commercial district, commercial area, but I also, like I said, the most contentious one that we're gonna run into is over at the school district, and I think it's important that people have a chance to see what that lighting actually does in their neighborhood. Not just driving out and looking at what, I mean, to see the actual impact right there in their neighborhood.
You can also check the placement of it, you know, the perpendicular and or at an angle, you can check all kinds of things. I concur. I mean, what are you talking about until you have some examples?
All right, so here's what I'm gonna propose. I'm gonna propose that we give it until the end of this week to try to line up a portable and see if we can get one lined up out here before the public hearing. If not, then I would like to postpone the public hearing. Everybody's muted again?
What do we need to do about that? Do we need to make that part of the motion?
Well, I just wanna see what people's reaction to that is.
I agree with that.
I
You know, if
agree.
we can line it up, I think that will be best case. And if we can't, then it's likely most efficient to cancel the public hearing.
Anybody not agree with that? Brett?
No, I agree.
No, motion?
Excuse me?
You wanna make a motion to that effect, or?
Well, then I amend
But we have
my,
a motion on the floor already.
What, we didn't have a second.
I seconded
Oh,
it.
I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So, and-
but I'll add the terms of what you just said, is that if we can arrange all this inspect, you know, looking at before a week from now, if we can't, we cancel the what do you call it, the
Public hearing.
public hearing.
You okay with that, Mary Claire?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that's the motion. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on a certificate of compliance for C3 Church to operate a church congregation at 529 2nd Street, C3 Church.
Great. So the applicant submitted a certificate of compliance application to operate a church in downtown, mainly for visibility and the high energy that comes with being in the downtown district. The building space to be used is located on the main level, it's like 2,200 square feet in area. They also would have an additional 412 square feet in the lower level that'd be used for their children's programs. Some internal work will need to be done, such as adding a stage and some walls and working on the floor a little bit. Their application narrative does state that the congregation is currently comprised of 50 people, but has a goal to increase this number to 150. Hours of operation would be on Sundays for morning mass at 10:30 a.m., along with some sporadic Wednesday night small group CCD meetings and live acoustic music from the deck for 2 to 3 hours on some Friday nights. Both the Wednesday and Friday evening events would include up to about 10 people on site.
Fred?
As for the parking plan,
Tiffany, keep going.
I was gonna ask about the parking. What building is it and what does that facility have?
It's Doughboys.
Do they have enough off-street parking to accommodate the projected growth?
I was just gonna get to that.
Okay, thank you.
So their parking plan is proposing to use the 4 parking spaces in the back of the building, along with the Phipps parking lot across the alley along by like Pier 500. For reference, the Phipps lot has about 58 parking spaces approximately in it, including a handicap parking stall, and would require congregation goers to pay to use those stalls because it's a public lot.
So, Tiffany, just so everybody knows what we're talking about here, this is the old Doughboys facility.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I knew that.
So yeah, I kind of went in and did a little bit of an analysis myself using the average household size in the city of Hudson through the American Community Survey estimates for 2018. So we have approximately 2.37 people per household, and assuming a household goes to church as a household, we could assume that the impact for additional vehicles in downtown would be between 21 to 64 additional vehicles, depending on like what their congregation size is, between the 50 to the 150. So on the scale of 50 people, you can expect about 21 additional vehicles, and up to 150, you can expect 64. So.
But with the current guidelines that we are working under through the county, I mean, they're not going to be able to have 50 people in that space. Are they?
Under what guidelines?
Under the current county guidelines in terms of number of people in outdoor spaces and indoor spaces? I mean, restaurants are only at 50%, you know.
What do you mean for COVID?
Yes.
Oh, correct. Yeah, they wouldn't be able to have that many in there right now.
Right.
But
we shouldn't make a decision based on that, Mary Claire.
No, I know, but I'm just, you know.
We need to look further into the future. And at my point, this is the wrong place for a church. We don't have the parking.
Fred?
Is the applicant on?
I wanted to comment that, then you limit the capacity of that building to X amount of people to keep it at or below the required parking that, by your formula or something like that, to keep that in check if they were to use that property. But I concur with Randy, that is just not the place for a church.
I mean, you got different timing of churches that are on Sunday morning, and then there's breakfast dinner or breakfast brunch. So the parking is going to be taken up way too much. I mean, it's going to bounce traffic everywhere. There's just no good reason that I could see moving forward with this certificate of compliance based just on parking. Nothing more.
So Tiffany, again, give us, if you would, what the days that they intend to use this and hours.
Yeah, so on Sundays, that would be the primary use of it, would be on Sunday mornings at 10:30 a.m. You could probably assume until like noon about. And then Wednesday nights and Friday nights, they'd have kind of sporadic events later in the evening hours.
Oh, no.
So does this change the usage a lot from what Doughboys had? In terms of number of people and spaces and parking and all of that?
Yes, I am.
You mean as far as parking impact goes?
Yes.
They're about the same. They both require about 200 square feet per parking space required. So like, yeah, for every 200 square feet that's usable, they would be required to provide space. But because that's another stipulation too that I can get into if you want, downtown code.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm talking about usage though. So, you know, is there a big difference between the usage of what the previous tenant had to what this tenant would use?
It's hard for me to say how much.
We've got the pastor
tenant
here.
usually used.
The pastor is here with us, and I think he'd probably like to make a few comments right now. You would come up to the mic, please?
Sure.
Now, give your name and everything, please.
Sure.
Name and address.
I'm Matthew Anderson. I live in Ellsworth, 441 Highland Drive, Ellsworth. Actually, 493 Highland Drive.
Okay.
So, as far as I understand, the Doughboy occupancy was 38 people. And they were open. I'm sure their hours were regular restaurant hours from probably noon till evening. And so the only change would be on a Sunday morning that we could see, and our services at this time would start because we have a congregation in Ellsworth. So this one would be staggered for the sake of our team. That may change in the future where we would start earlier at 9 o'clock, but then we'd probably have two services, you know, one at 9 and 10:30. But the only time that our population would be larger would be on that Saturday morning. Sunday morning. The rest of the week, the usage wouldn't be probably as much as Doughboy was using. You know, from our standpoint, we don't really see how the parking would be an issue. We'd be in and out of there on a Sunday before a lot of traffic would get down there. And as well, our congregation would also go to the restaurants, you know, which are Hudson people.
Good point.
So,
Any questions? None? Everybody on mute again?
I'm going to move that we deny the certificate of compliance based on the parking issue. We don't have answers to parking right now. We can't move this in there and expect no problems because there will be on Friday nights, Sunday mornings with all the restaurants serving breakfast and brunch. We just can't add this at this point. That's my motion.
I will second that only because of the location being next to a bar, and other things that, you know, they have their patio, they could start Sunday morning at 10 o'clock outside and you'd be competing, there'd be noise. It's just not the right place for, you know, parking's one of the issues. I just think the choice of space is inappropriate. So I second it for that reason, but I agree with you.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Discussion? You know, let me just say this. I don't know, Randy, that parking is an issue. I've never been downtown on Sunday where parking is a real issue. And especially that time of the morning. Evening's different for dinner, but in the morning, you know, I've never seen parking as a real issue. The same thing, I mean, as the pastor pointed out, you know, on Wednesdays and Fridays, they're gonna have the same number of people there that Doughboys has there. The occupancy is what it is, you know? And so they're not gonna have any more parking issues there than Doughboys did. So if there's a different reason for rejecting, I'd listen to that, but I certainly don't think that it's because of parking.
Thank you for your opinion. I disagree.
All right, anybody else?
I have to agree that I don't think that's the sole purpose to deny this request.
Okay,
I will also say that I don't think Sunday morning parking would be an issue.
anybody else? All right, we have, Pastor, do you have anything else to say?
No, I really thank the board for considering this. Our church is very a modern style church feel. The building would work for us awesome. I think it would be a great addition to the downtown with just some positivity, and we would absolutely do our best to accommodate parking on a Sunday morning and work with people during the week and the weekday nights. I concur. I just don't see it being an issue of what the capacity was, what Doughboy used.
Okay,
So thank you very much for your consideration.
thank you. We may need you still here. We'll see how this motion goes. All right, so we have a motion and a second to deny. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
How many we got on here? There's just 5 of us here today?
2-2.
All right, and I vote not to, I vote against rejection of this. All right, so the motion fails. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the certificates of compliance.
Of all people.
Randy,
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve.
I think I just want to speak to Council Morissett's comment. I think, Randy, that's why I raised the question in terms of the parking usage. Are we comparing apples to apples in terms of the previous occupant and the proposed occupant?
No.
Anybody else? All right, motion and second to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll vote to approve. Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on a downtown design review certificate for 424 2nd Street, Pete Foster. Pete, are you on?
I don't know if he is, but I am happy to introduce the subject. So the applicant has submitted requests for a sign permit and downtown design review certificate to permit a projecting sign, along with a couple window vinyl pieces at 424 2nd Street. The projecting sign itself does meet all of our dimensional requirements. It is double facing, unlit, and would be about 10 square feet in area, and also extends about 3 feet, 10 inches out of the wall. Also, the window vinyl decals are proposed to be 32.6 square feet in area. They would take up less than 50% of the overall window area, but because the signs would be installed outdoors on the windows, they would need to be considered as exterior wall signage and shall follow the 10% wall area maximum allowance. So that, they actually do meet that. They're right below the maximum allowance, so they meet all dimensional requirements in that regard as well. So with that, staff is recommending approval of all sign permits for this property, so long as they get their permits and fees submitted and paid in full prior to installation. So,
I would move to approve with all city conditions, and I welcome the new business, and I know what it is, and I wish them great success.
I'll second that.
We have motion and second to approve. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on a downtown design review certificate for 110 First Street CD Products, Inc.
All right, so this applicant has also submitted requests for a sign permit and downtown design fee certificate for a projecting sign. Due to NR 118 requirements, staff has kind of made it so that signage at this particular property cannot be visible from the riverway because of NR 118. So we told them that they have to have the best kind of signage they could have for this would be a projecting sign, and it can't be lit because it can't draw attention to itself. With that being said, they are proposing a double-facing unlit sign that'll be 9 square feet in area and extend 3.7 feet out of the wall. So it meets all dimensional requirements as well as NR 118. So staff is recommending approval of this one as well.
Somebody else.
I'll move to approve with the staff requirements or conditions.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on final development plans for Mayor Road Apartments at Lot 31 of South Point Plat Land Devco of Hudson LLC.
Right. So in front of you, you will see the final development plans for an apartment complex on Lot 31 of South Point Plat. We've kind of already been through this one already in regards to traffic and the project history, so I'm not going to dive too much into that. As far as what's different from last time, they've submitted some landscaping and lighting plans for us to review. They meet all requirements in that regard. They've also tweaked some of the parking and upped some of the green space that's available on site. So with that being said, I do believe Nick Vivian is on if you guys have any questions for him. Otherwise, staff is recommending approval of the final development plans with the listed conditions.
We have a motion?
I will move to approve with all city conditions.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Is there discussion? Anybody have any questions of Nick? Is anybody on Zoom that wanted to comment on this? And I can't see you if you're raising your hand, so if there's anybody online that wants to comment, please unmute yourself and just jump right on in. Is there anybody there? All right, anybody have any questions of Nick?
No.
We've got a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on final development plans for discussion possible action on a request to amend chapter 99-21 chickens.
Right, so at its last meeting, the council heard a presentation on July 20th for a request from the Hudson High School Agriculture Department to amend a few pieces to our municipal code, chapter 99-21 regarding chickens. So some of the proposed requests or requested amendments that they are looking to have include allowing chickens to be kept on properties zoned public, allowing the selling of eggs on the premises, increasing the number of chickens to be kept on the premises, and increasing chicken coop floor plan and run area. So staff is recommending approving the request and directing city staff to make appropriate amendments to municipal code chapter 99-21. But we're also, if you feel comfortable setting a public hearing date or requesting that the council set a public hearing date as well as part of the recommendation.
I have one question. What was the very first thing that you said, Tiffany, about the public land? Was opening it up, or what was that, please?
Yeah, so currently our chicken code only allows chickens to be kept on R1 residential properties and not public. So because the school is a publicly zoned property, they are looking for chickens to be allowed to be kept on the premises in public zones.
With that said, then what would be to stop somebody that's a budding Prospect Park Burkmo's Park from having the chickens just run wild up there? What would stop that?
We could have a stipulation written into the code that would require it to be for an educational purpose and make more of like a permanent thing. That's something where we'd have to talk with Kathy, our city attorney, to figure out ways to prevent that kind of thing from happening.
I think that needs to be done. Otherwise, it's carte blanche.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that I don't know what we gotta do. We gotta postpone this until we can get more legal descriptions and/or definitions of public property, or keeping them from public property. Even though the school can choose to do that, it can't involve all city property, county property, things like that. It has to be limited somehow, otherwise this thing could just be wild.
Fred, before we move further, are you requesting city staff to look further into developing the code, like still draft it?
I would ask you to do that, yes, please.
Okay. So it's not necessarily a postponement then, you're still requesting staff to...
I want to get it done. It was just I want to get an answer to this before we finalize it, that's all. So
Right.
we
We're
can...
not acting on it tonight.
Oh,
right now.
well then...
We're just, yeah. There's no code to look at tonight. It's just directing city staff to look into how to draft this and working with the city attorney in doing so.
Yes, please.
Okay.
So yeah, keep the wheels turning and just get it back to us with, a change in that area, I think, unless anybody else has any comments on it. If everything else is okay, I'm okay with the rest of it. It's just the public land part of it.
All right, so the action requested here is approve the request and direct city staff to make appropriate amendments to municipal code chapter 99-21. What are you saying, Tiffany? What are we doing here tonight?
Approving that the Hudson High School Ag Department's request is valid and directing city staff to make appropriate amendments by drafting something to provide to you guys at the next available meeting, once we get it drafted.
And then you had suggested a public hearing too. I'm not seeing that as part of the action requested here right now.
That was if you're comfortable doing that tonight. If not, that's understandable.
I'm against moving ahead then, as you spoke, approving it for public issue without getting it in its proper form first. I would like to see it in its proper form. Rather than, giving them what, doing what they've requested, which I'm not trying to be evil here. It's just, I don't think it's not written tight enough to encompass what should be in there.
It requires more thought.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I don't see how you can approve it as submitted without having that done. I mean, you're going back and redoing it is what you're doing then. Right? I must be muted.
So you want it? No, I don't think so. Are you, so what's your action, Fred? You want to postpone, or what you want?
Well, get the information and postpone it until we can write it in its final form before it would become city ordinance.
When can you have it done, Tiffany?
Can you have it done by next meeting?
Yeah, probably. We already have something kind of drafted up already. It just take a little tweaking with the public definition.
Get our attorney's input and let's not drag it through the mud. Let's get it done, but get it done quickly.
Okay. So we'll just postpone this until next meeting, or until we get, until you guys want it on the agenda again. Okay, Tiffany?
Sounds good.
All right, I've got nothing. Anybody?
I'd
Randy?
like to have the 11th Street overpass bridge brought onto the next meeting agenda. We
Okay.
need to get something taken care of up there.
Sounds good to me. All right, you got that, Emily and Tiffany? Mary Claire?
Can we get an update on the status of the comprehensive plan at the next meeting?
Yeah, so currently we've put that on hold due to COVID. So we can't do any public engagement right now with anybody just because social distancing requirements and the fact that trying to do it all online isn't as accurate or adequate to what we need to do for it. So because of that, and also because of the potential impacts of COVID, we're kind of waiting a couple months to see how that impacts housing and economic development and other major components to the plan itself. So
I'm just curious, how far along is the plan? And so, I mean, what point are you stopping? I mean,
we have some drafted chapters ready to go. I believe they're put up on the project website right now, but I'd have to double check on that. I can send you a link to that too after the meeting if you would like.
so just curious, the length of time that it's on hold for is indefinite or?
Yeah, indefinite until we can get things sorted out with COVID.
And I mean, I know there's a timeline, is there not? I mean, this needs to be updated every 10 years. So, I mean, what's that deadline that we're up against?
End of the year.
We're cutting it pretty close right now, but trying to work within constraints as much as
I
possible.
mean, is the deadline December of this year or what's the deadline?
Yeah, so we're trying to bring it back online, hopefully in September, and get things running again for that.
Is there a statutory deadline, Tiffany?
Statutory deadline's just 10 years after the last time it was approved,
So the last time it was approved was when?
2009. So
Right,
we're
but I mean,
kind
what
of,
time of year or, I mean, what's
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, we're already behind. It's 2020.
We'll look into that, Mary Claire. Thanks for bringing that up. Anybody else?
I'll move to adjourn. If there's no one else.
Second?
Got a motion second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.